Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me today when we do the full review on the Ciga Design X series, aka the Great Ape. Now, this watch is beyond incredible. So I do need to spend a bit of time talking just briefly about the brand and about this incredible box that this watch comes in. We're used to seeing a lot of plain boxes coming at AliExpress, and even the nicer watches, they do come in still pretty standard boxes. But this box right here is a massive clue into who Ciga Design are. So let me take it out. And as I mentioned in the unboxing, that it does feel like an event opening a Ciga Design watch. Now, Ciga Design are this company which are on AliExpress. They also have their own website, and they basically produce skeletonized watches. And they did a massive hit with the Z series. I think it came out maybe a year and a bit ago. Incredibly well built watch, and they do have a whole host of other watches. They've also got some ladies watches as well, all following that same theme of just incredibly well designed pieces. So do check out their website or the AliExpress store. There is something on there which you can surely appreciate. So let's open up the box. As we saw, now I want to bring your attention to this. So these are some of Ciga Design's accolades. So they were nominated for a bunch of Swiss watch awards. You can see here it tells you that the GPHG, one of the most prestigious awards of the watchmaking industry in Switzerland. They won the Red Dot Gold Award, Design Award 2019, and this is also the first and only Chinese original designer brand for wristwatches that has ever won both awards, the Red Dot and IF Gold Award. I have no clue what any of these mean, but the fact that you can see it, it just lets you know the pedigree that this brand is set up on. So as you saw, the watch was in there, nice little cutout, and even just that streamlined packaging lets you know what Ciga Design are all about. So the main focus on this watch is engineering very well engineered watches, perhaps even over engineered. So when you go into the box further, it becomes sort of like a booklet. So you've got all the information right here, which is the specifications. So let's go through that. So you've got a synthetic sapphire crystal on the watch head. This is number 9 on the Mohs scale, so extremely hard sapphire glass. You also have a hardened mineral glass on the back. We'll do dimensions after. The case is, you do have 2 versions now. I'm not too sure which one this is, but with the feel in hand, this feels like the titanium. I believe the silver one is the stainless steel one. Of course, the dial, as you can see, it is a skeletonized dial, and the watch hands will go into that a little bit later. And then also you've got the strap options and a little bit more information about the movement, which we can cover right now. So Ciga Design say this is a movement which they developed by themselves. So it is a 25 joule movement, beats at a rate of 21,600 vibrations per hour. It does have a 40-hour power reserve, and accuracy is rated to -15 to +30 seconds. Now, I think the interesting thing about this movement is how it has been constructed around the dial, within the actual case as well. We'll go into further detail a lot further on in the review, and you will see that this watch is just incredibly well engineered, and this one is definitely for the watch geeks out there, including myself. I am a bit of a watch geek, and I think anybody who does have an engineering background will absolutely love this, or at the least fully appreciate the time and effort that has gone into designing these watches. So further on here, you can see the watch case sits. You got the 2 straps here. When you open the booklet further on, you also have an operational manual. Really nice, clean printing, very precise, very concise and clear instructions, easy to understand. Setting the time, even assembling the strap, maintenance, a warranty card, and then information about the designer, Mr. Zhang Jinmin. Hopefully I said that correctly, who is the founder of Ciga Design. And it's a very interesting read because it tells you his sort of history, his background, and I always find these things interesting because it's important to see who's made the watch. This is very different from any AliExpress or Chinese brand out there, because a lot of the watches aren't developed. They are given to factories to make. A lot of them are homages, of course, but this one has been developed from the ground up and built by a Chinese company, and which has won recognized Swiss watch awards. That is a great achievement in itself, being the first Chinese brand to be recognized and the only to date by, you know, Swedish watchmaking industry. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about dimensions. So the dimensions of the case are as follows. You have a 45.5 case diameter, and I've measured from this point to this point, excluding the crown. You also have a 48mm lug to lug. You have a thickness of 11.8mm. The strap width is 22mm. The overall weight of the watch is 78 grams. This definitely does feel like the titanium case, and that 78 gram just shows that how light this watch is. Now, of course, it's going to be even lighter because of all this skeletonized dial chassis that you see here and all the cutouts on the case. So a lot of weight saving has gone into this watch. The watch also has 30 meters of water resistance, no screw down crown, and of course a display case back. Okay, so now where to start? There's just so much going on. While I'm here, let me just do a quick wrist check. Another skeletonized watch here, which is a Flamma. I'll put this back on because, of course, you know, we're reviewing a skeletonized watch, so why not? So yeah, back to the Ciga design. So obviously the thing that does stand out is this X frame section in the center. So this chassis, if you will, the way this watch has been built is everything has been built around this X frame. And so the watch movement itself has been made in such a way that it fits along the cross beams. Now what that does, it creates great stability because everything is spread out, everything is tied down to the cross frame. Now there's another hidden feature in the watch case, and that is along the sides. So you can see the springs here. So that is something which I've never seen on a watch. Does a watch need that level of shock resistance? Probably not, but that goes into my point about this being possibly overly engineered as well. So the cross section here is tied into these springs, which gives super stability to the movement. And of course, with the movement, all the gears and cogs being evenly spread out allows further stability. Let's turn the watch around and you'll see this PVD coated custom rotor, Ciga Design customized movement. Now I'm not an expert on movements, but there's certain features I see here which make me think this might have a bit of ETA in it, or maybe a bit of Miyota, but I could be wrong. I'm clueless until I research the movement. But what I can say is I did put it on the time grapher and the watch was running around 12 seconds a day, which is perfectly reasonable. And the great thing with this style of case is the fact that you can see every single gear, every single cog, even the mainspring. You can see when it is running out of power and how it does tighten up. And this, again, for the watch nerds out there or any person with an engineering background, you know, if you want to see how watches really work, I think this is just fantastic to see it fully in its full glory. Because I feel a lot of skeletonized watches, they're not purpose built, if that makes sense. You have the Seig movement with the open heart, which is put in and then a dial is built around it, or you'll find it just doesn't look right. And you also have problems with legibility, and you know, the watches don't look finished, if that makes sense. I feel with the Ciga design, the X series and the Z series, is that it has been made for it to be skeletonized, so everything does line up. You know, you see a column here of wheels, you know, the hands, everything does go together to tell you it has been made for it to be skeletonized. And the fact that the movements were, you know, specially developed so they can be used in this style of case, of course, says a lot. So let's look at some of the features here. There's just so much to look at, you don't know what to really point out. They do have a few color options, and I think all the color options look great. I went with the black and gold, just so it does create some contrast that you can see. I think a popular color on there is the black and orange. But looking at it closer, you can see the hands used are skeletonized hands with chevrons at the end. They do have a fully polished surface, and you've got this skeletonized seconds hand that is also highly polished. Now you can see the center wheel there, which just adds to the aesthetic, and you can see the frame here, it is slightly textured. It does have some machining on there just to make it stand out, as well as the color, of course. And the frame behind is all blacked out just so you can see that X. Now you do have a few of the features present on the watch. You've got these gold screws that hold down the springs, then you've got this gold thing on the left, I don't know what that is for, and then you've got this composite crown where you've got this black coating over the top, and then you've got the C engraved along the side, fully polished crown, and then you've also got these small flathead screws that go around the back of the crystal that holds the case down. So you can just see how well that movement is integrated as part of that X cross-frame chassis. Now you can also see the Ciga design, which is applied to the right hand side at the 3 o'clock, fully polished. I think the placement of that logo is perfect. Now you'll notice that of course there's an absence of minute markers and hour markers. So I found that quite difficult to set the time, right? Obviously I estimated it, but I thought, you know, you can't have a watch that you got to estimate, you know, the hours, let alone minutes. So I went back on the AliExpress site just to look at, you know, the page and just look at more information. And I came across a patent they have on this watch. So this is their patented time setting system. So what that means right here, that's 12 o'clock. Then you have a notch there, which is 1 o'clock, a notch there, 2 o'clock, this notch here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I think that's quite interesting. And if you didn't know that, honestly, you wouldn't assume that because it's not like the markers or anything, just notches, and you think it is part of the actual design. This is Ciga's most expensive watch on the AliExpress store. So it's around 250 to 280 pounds, which I'd guess it's around $360, $380. I'll put up the exact price on the bottom. So, you know, that is a very expensive watch. Now, looking at the orders, they've sold around 33 orders with a full 5-star rating. So clearly, you know, this watch is for those certain people that actually want this. And, you know, it is a bit of a niche anyway, because not everybody enjoys skeletonized watches. Like myself, you know, I can appreciate them from a distance, but I think day-to-day practicality, you do want something which just looks normal. However, saying that, you still have quite a few people that do enjoy this watch and they're extremely satisfied with them, giving them full 5-star ratings. Now, if this is too expensive for you guys, then I do highly recommend you look at the Ciga Z design, and there's a few others with that similar Z design, but they've got a few different features on the dial. They're a lot more affordable. I think the Z design is around the £130 mark, so around $160. It's also a more of an oval case shape, I think a bit more wrist friendly if you don't like this big square design. Also, they do follow the same design principles, same build quality, and you know, if this is not the cup of tea for you, then the Z series is definitely worth checking out because it's built just as well. And in fact, I think the awards were for the Z series originally, because I remember there was a lot of hype around that watch when it first came out. So looking at the strap, you can just see this hollow style rubber strap, quite thin, very soft, and extremely supple and comfortable on the wrist. We'll put it on the wrist just now. And they also give you another canvas style strap option. I also want to bring your attention to the buckle. It's not your usual flat style buckle. It is rounded off like a handlebar, and then you've also got Ciga design engraved along the bottom. So the attention to detail and the design aspect of the watch, you know, is through and throughout present everywhere. So here we have the Ciga Design X series on my 6.5-inch wrist. Even though it is quite a large watch, but dimensionally I think it's still within the norms for a smaller wrist. So you've got a 45mm case diameter and 48mm lug to lug. It's just fine. It does feel quite awkward on my wrist because I've not worn any square watches, let alone square watches this big. But you know, the slim profile, it does fit central and it doesn't look, you know, overly massive. Now I do want to show you something really cool on this watch, and that is the lume. So just check that out. How cool is that? The whole X-frame chassis has been illuminated, and also the minute and the hour hand, but the X just looks absolutely spectacular, and I think they've done right just highlighting the X because that is what the watch is called. That is the theme. You know, you got a really good lume because the application is quite thin on the frame and it's very decent on the hands. There's not a lot of surface area for lume, but I think it does suffice because it's not a dive watch, and I think the lume is more than sufficient. So to summarize about the watch, you know, have I found anything negative about it? I found two things which I found were quite negative while I wore this watch. One was because of the design of the watch, the movement is somewhat loud. It's not the quietest movement because the rotor spinning does create a bit of noise. And the second thing is on wrist, in hand as well. Just listen to this. So when you tap it, it rattles, and that is because of the 4 springs. It's not something that you want to hear on your wrist, and it reminds you of those cars, you know, like that are incredibly well built, expensive cars, but when you're in there, all you can hear is rattle and squeaks. So this would definitely fail any rattle and squeak test, because you know, it's just that noise, that rattle, that wobble. And I think, especially given the price that you pay for it, that's not something you want to hear. Although I understand, you know, with the design that they've gone for and the purpose of their design, I totally understand, but it is an undesired effect. Other than that, you know, the days I've had it, I've not noticed any other QC issues. The movement runs great. I think the watch, again, going back to my point that this is a purpose-built skeletonized watch, and you would be hard-pressed to find another skeletonized watch as good as a Ciga design. So I think the accolades speak volumes for this watch. I think they need to be really proud of what they've created. You know, something from scratch, so different, and you know, something just so incredibly well engineered. But I would say, yes, overly engineered as well, because there's probably not a need for a lot of these things, but you can clearly tell this was a designer or a watchmaker that wanted to fully flex his muscles making this watch, and I believe he has accomplished that. And if you are interested in buying this watch, I will leave the link to the Ciga store on AliExpress within the description. There's the AliExpress sale on, so you do have some money off this. And as I recommended, check out the other watches as well, which are a lot more affordable and still have the same level of design behind them. So that's it for me on this review. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.